So we're going to be talking about accessibility in MathJax and or MathJax in general. So to start with, what is MathJax? MathJax is a JavaScript library for displaying math and web pages, and in particular for making the mathematics accessible. So here's an example of some ridiculous math that I just put in there just to show a few of the rendering possibilities here. So this is generated through MathJax. How does this, or who is MathJax before we do that? MathJax is available for free through the generous support of a range of professional societies, publishers, and others who sponsor us. The founding partners were the American Mathematical Society, Society for Industrial Applied Mathematics, and Originally Designed Science. You can see we have a wide range of other supporters here. Lots of publishing companies and professional societies. And so it's free through their support. MathJax is distributed in a variety of ways. The main way is to use a content delivery network, so you don't have to have a copy of it yourself. You simply link to the delivery network. You can also go through, get a copy of yourself through the Node Package Manager, NPM, or through GitHub. And the source code is also available via GitHub as well. These links would take you to places to get those things. The way that it looks is that you would include a script call in your page that says something like, this is a CDN, one of the content delivery networks, using the NPM package for MathJax at version 3. And this is the file that's being asked for, which allows tech and MathML input and an HTML output. And then in your web page, you would put this at the top of the page, and inside, oops, my dog just jumped on me here. Sorry, stay where you are, buddy. And in your web page, tech notation or MathML if you wanted to. This is tech notation that says A is not equal to 0, and here is the quadratic equation, and then this is the quadratic formula, fraction of minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this page would then look something like this in the end, and I added a little more to it there. So that's what MathJax looks like, and that's how you get to it. But what we're really interested in is some of its accessibility properties. So MathJax has accessibility in a couple of ways. I'm going to go to a lab here that I can do some examples. So let's look at this, the quadratic formula. All right, so here that is again being rendered live. And of course, if I change these things, if I added something in there, I could re-render it with those changes. So this is a tool where I can test things out. And we have attached to every equation that's rendered is a menu that MathJax has to let you do things like show what the MathML is that underlies this. MathJax converts everything to MathML under the hood. And so, in fact, here's the MathML down below. Let me enlarge this a bit so you can see that a little better. This is the MathML structure for that. It's a lot harder to type that kind of thing yourself, which is why most people prefer tech notation if you're hand editing. But you'll see from Rob and folks later that this format is also a useful one. So you can see and copy it, but you can also turn on some accessibility features. Right now, there is one that's on by default, which is to include hidden MathML. The reason for that is that a number of screen readers know how to read MathML off the bat. So what we do is we actually render the math in ourselves, but there's MathML in the page that's behind the scenes where the screen readers can pick it up. and they're told not to read this markup, but to read the MathML instead. And so a screen reader could be asked to do that. And let me see if I can, let me just try to turn this on and see if we can actually hear this. I'm not very good with the screen readers, so
voiceover on Chrome.
Can you
MathJax v3 Interactive Lab. Interactive Lab. Selected tab. You are currently on a tab inside of a group. To select this option, press Control Option Space. Your internet connection is unstable. Press Control Option Shift Up arrow.
Are people able to hear this, or is it too clunky?
You can hear it.
You can hear it. Okay. So let's see if we can get this thing to actually
Keep types at x equals minus b plus or minus b2 minus 4ac2a group. You are currently on a group.
So that's
inside
what
of web
that's
content.
what it reads right
to
now.
exit this web area, press Control Option Shift has joined the meeting.
It's too hard to hear
off.
that, so I'm going to leave that off for the moment. But it did read this. Now, one thing you probably notice is that it goes very fast, and I've actually turned this voice down quite a bit in its speed. People who actually do this at a really high rate of speed, and so it's hard to pick up an entire expression like that in that kind of a setting. So MathJax actually has another set of tools for doing this, which are our assistive tools. So if we activate accessibility to this, this will turn on a whole different set of tools that you can now explore this expression by hitting return. And right now it's showing what would be read by the screen reader if I had it on. Sorry. This is what it would say: x equals start fraction negative b plus or minus square root, and so on. And we can read that all at once, or you can step into the expression and get individual pieces at a time and step into those individual pieces. So this fraction has a numerator and a denominator. So if I step down, oops, I stepped too far down. If I step down, I get the numerator and the numerator and the denominator. And you can step into the numerator and get its parts. You can step into the square root and so on. And it knows this is in a square root, so it says radicand here, so that some of these things are contextual, what they'll say about them. B squared and b, base b, and exponent 2, and so on. And then it should say times here in between them as I step into the different, there are some invisible characters there that represent the multiplication. So these are the kinds of things you can do to move through an expression in smaller chunks. That's one of the ways that MathJax can help you to do this. This is being generated by MathJax, these strings, as opposed to the screen reader themselves. MathJax has a MathML to text translation through what's called the speech rule engine, which is the brainchild of Volker Sorga, one of the MathJax developers. And it's really a pretty cool thing. And it does more than just read the math. It actually helps to structure the math better and allows us to be able to recognize matching braces and things like that. So for example, let me turn the enrichment off for a moment. If you were to just type, x plus 4c plus f of x, something like this, and typeset it, and we look at the MathML that's part of it, it's all flat. That is, there's no structure to this other than symbol following symbol. But if we turn on the enrichment that's part of MathJax, it will rewrite this so that it has more structure to it. So for example, it's added in the invisible multiplication between the 4 and the c here and put a row around it to say that's a tighter binding than the addition. And then there is an invisible function apply here, f of something, and the parentheses are matched and they're inside of a row in such a way that they are indicated that they are paired together. And so this enrichment that's being done helps to model what's actually happening here better than the original tech does, which is just a collection of symbols following each other. This does not have structure, whereas this does, and that allows the construction of the math of the string that goes along with this to be better. So this is F. All right, so this, okay, so it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, which is what says of here. I think if we drill down to it here and we step into this one, it knows that that's a function applied, F of something, F of this left. And whereas before, without this enrichment, it doesn't have that information. These are just symbols next to each other. So this speech rule engine really does an awful lot in terms of cleaning up the math to make it semantic in a better way, and then it'll be read better by the screen readers, because we can produce better looking results here. A second part of this, let me go back to the right. Another aspect of this is that you can collapse. Well, do I have time for this? Yeah, I probably do. So it's possible to have math that can be kind of collapsed away so that you don't see it. So here, for example, x equals a fraction. So you don't have to read all of the stuff about it to get it. X equals a collapsed fraction. That gives you an overview of the expression rather than having to see all the detail down below. And if you want to see more detail, you can get it. So equals start fraction minus b plus or minus some square root of something over 2a. And so you can expand this to, and you can do it while you're navigating it. So if you wanted to, all right, if you wanted to do this one, you can expand it, I think, somewhere. You can expand it. Well, you can expand it by clicking. I know there's a key for expanding. I just don't remember what it is. So that you can expand and collapse these things as you're reading them, so that you can look at a summarized version of the expression rather than the full one. And finally, the other aspect of what this speech engine has is that it's localized so that you can, whoops, let me just do it this way. It's easier that way. You can get, I've made it so large, I'm having trouble navigating it. All right, let's go over here. You can change the language, for example, to French. And then if we see this, it should be in French. And we have 5 or 6 languages that we currently have. And the other language that we have is actually is Braille. So this was something that maybe Rob will be talking about later, and I'm going to turn that on so you can see it just for a second, and then I'll be done, which says, when we look at it now, this is the Braille version of it down below here. And if you had a Braille output, it would go to that, and you could read it from that. So, so these are some of the features that MathJax offers from an accessibility standpoint. I will stop there and go back to my final one, which was any questions.
Thanks, David. That was really great, unpacking all of the things that MathJax can do for accessibility.
An overview of it, there's lots. Sorry?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. I was just saying that's really
Sorry.
cool to see the all the different things that it allows you to do for accessibility purposes. Does anyone have any questions for David?
Okay, well, thank you then. I appreciated the opportunity to show you a little bit about MathJax. There's lots more to learn, and you know where to reach me. So any
Thanks.
questions, let me know.
Great. Thanks so much, David. Thanks for joining us.